Hello, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today with us, Angel Ribo, CEO, consultant, TV host, international public speaker, and president of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, is co-hosting once again with our dear Sunny Chayes. Sunny is not only the host of this show, but she is also the host of ABC Solutionary Sundays. She is the feature writer and chief strategist for Whole Life Times, the longest running conscious life magazine in America. Sunny is also a producer, moderator, and a myth buster. Before starting with them, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world. And you can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment on this video, or sharing it with someone that you know that is going to benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, we want you to collaborate with Mindalia with your own valuable content. For that, you can go to our website. On the top, you're going to find a link that says Collaborate with Mindalia. That link is going to take you to a form that you can fill out, and our technical team will be getting in contact with you. You can collaborate with Mindalia in English through Mindalia TV English, as you already know, but you can also do it in Portuguese through Mindalia Televisão and Spanish through Mindalia Televisión. We want you to follow our different channels, Facebook pages, Instagram account, find out all that is being shared there on a daily basis, information as beautiful and as interesting as the one that you're already used to see in Mindalia TV English. We're not going to be delaying this any further. I'm going to be leaving you with Angel, with Sunny, and a very special guest that we have for you today. Guys, welcome to Mindalia live streaming. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mirna, for this wonderful introduction again. And Sunny, welcome back. How are you? Good morning.
Doing great, doing great. I'm so excited. This is our fourth and last show on dignity today. So we're going to be really rounding it out with one of the most beautiful guests I could imagine bringing for dignity. So I'm doing well, and I've been working with our concept of dignity all week, and I've had some challenges come up where I've been able to use it more and more. So kind of like that. That's how I'm doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, I heard that the forum has been kind of postponed a little bit. Is that
it's
correct?
Being postponed to May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Everything will be the same. All of the things you've been talking about, the plays, the people, the happening, the everything, it's just moving out a little bit to make it even stronger and better and like that. So that's the news on that front.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, so from my side, it's been a pretty hectic week with a lot of amazing guests on the different shows that we have every day. But they all have something in common, which is, it's funny that we were having a very short conversation just a few minutes ago with our wonderful guest, secret guest. And she was talking about the spiritual awakening. And actually, I think it's the third time this week that someone tells me about the spiritual awakening that's going to happen this year. I was just reading a very long report about, from a spiritual perspective, what's going to happen throughout this year. And I think that a lot of spiritual leaders coincide that this year is going to be extremely special. I'm not an astrologist, so I don't know if the stars are in favor of that, but there's definitely something that's going to happen. And for sure, something that is really going to happen is that Sunny, you and I are going to keep on bringing amazing people that will help in this process of awakening and helping Mindalia TV's audience and people who are suffering and in pain not to be in that place anymore.
Yes, and I think that it's so incredible that we can bring the guests we do to be able to bring these kind of tips that have to do with anything that's going on in our lives. And I want to actually talk a little bit about the guests we're going to bring on. I normally just chit chat, but I want to go ahead and actually read this because it's so powerful and there's so much to say about our guest Ikuyo Graham that I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of information. So our wonderful and beautiful and gorgeous guest today, Ikuyo Graham, is a spiritual alchemist, the actor and playwright whose name means blessed woman in the Ga language of West Africa, helps incarcerated youth realize their spiritual identity and recast their lives. Since 1992, she's been performing a one-woman autobiography play, Spirit Awakening, acting out scenes from her life, from tribal princess to her native Ghana, in her native Ghana, to British schoolgirl, to New York actress, to a woman reclaiming her African heritage and deeper spiritual self. The experience inspired her to found the nonprofit Spirit Awakening Foundation in 1995 to teach at-risk kids the power of positive and productive expression. In its cornerstone rites of passage program, they use meditation, creative writing, improvisation, and visual arts to write and perform their own life stories, which law enforcement says has helped curb gang violence. And of course, Miss Graham also appeared in the new indie film Interference. And there are many, many more things we can say. That's just a brief little introduction. But now let us bring on Akuyo and just start chatting.
Welcome, Akuyo, to Mindalia TV. Welcome.
Thank you so very much. It's my honor to be with all of you here. And Sunny, thank you for that beautiful introduction.
As humble as I can bring it forward. So Akuyo, as I think you know, we've been, this has been our month of dignity. We've used the word dignity as a sort of a prayer bowl to be in the last 4 shows and this one. And so I thought I would just let you, go in about that, because I feel like you're the queen of dignity.
Is one of my favorite words. So I'm thrilled that I get to be on the show when you're looking at this amazing word. And it matters because I think in any situation, what I do try to do is to bring a sense of dignity, not only my own, but also to the people I'm around or the things that are around me, whether it's the objects or plants or human beings. And it really, this does dovetail into the work that I do, working with incarcerated children who feels oftentimes so left out, ignored, forgotten. And so my job is to remind them that they have inherent dignity, that no one can take away from them, that irrespective of their circumstances, their difficulties and the situations that they find themselves in, that dignity is there. And for them, so my job is to support them in recognizing this, to remember this, to rediscover their sense of dignity and self-worth, and then to allow that to really move them in such a way that it influences choices they make, it influences their behavior and attitudes. So dignity is a very powerful, very potent way of being.
Why? I mean, I was completely impressed and fascinated by many of the concepts that Sunny talked about when she was introducing you. And I would say, I'm very concerned about youth today because obviously it's our future and children. Why would you say that it's so easy for them to lose that dignity, according to your experience?
Well, I think, they forget that they have the dignity because of the experiences they've been through. Many of them are suffering from trauma. They've been traumatized. Many of the children that I work with have been abused physically, emotionally. They have been neglected, and they have been victims of tremendous acts of violence that have been perpetrated upon themselves. So as a child, if you're 15, you're 14, 13, if, whatever your age, if that has been the bulk of your experience, it's very easy to then not recognize that you have self-worth, that you are valuable, that you are needed, that you are valued, that you have dignity, that you are beautiful. I think all children are truly beautiful. And so because of the experiences that they've had, because of the situations that they find themselves in, many of them are not thinking about dignity or self-worth. And so I think that the adults around them, it behooves us. It is our jobs to create an environment where they can begin the process of reclaiming that dignity, the process of reclaiming their voices and their self-worth and their beauty and wisdom, all those things that they do have. It's in there. We just have to create the environment that makes it safe for them to be able to express those qualities and to live from those qualities.
One way that you do it so beautifully, Akuyo, is in the writings. And I have a number of the books, Voices of the Unheard, where there are many, many letters from these children. And I think what's so powerful about that, I know in my own writing, is it's sort of one thing to just be chatting, and even if we're wise people and we chat wisely, but taking pen to paper, literally, I mean, even more so than a computer, and writing our truth and being able to look for that other word that is really what we mean, and then digging even deeper and finding what we really want to say, I think is so incredibly valuable. I mean, for all of us, and that you do this with the kids, and they write the most just heart-wrenching, breaking open letters that we've been able to hear and read. And in your performances that you do once a year, where you bring many people together, Michael Beckwith and all kinds of actors to perform these letters. I mean, I've been to a number of these, and they're just absolutely, they're beautiful and they are heart-wrenching. But I think as a process, even for all of us, when we're going through something, to be able to use that way to get at what we really truly want to say, I think is so important. And that works in with our dignity, because we're giving ourselves permission to express ourselves. And it's something that we sometimes don't give ourselves permission. So I work with that myself even.
I agree, Sunny. It's the writing really is a very cathartic experience for them, to be able to put pen to paper and have the freedom to express what's in your heart, and to know that you're not going to be judged or condemned. And for you not to judge or condemn yourself for what comes out of you, and so it becomes a very powerful experience. And many times, a lot of the children in the program are oftentimes surprised by what they write. They are surprised that they have such wisdom within them to be expressed, because and again, safety is a very important part of dignity, because you want to feel safe, to bring your dignified self out. You don't want to feel as though, you might be judged or condemned, for the way you are, for being who you are, for being your authentic self. So you want to feel very safe in your environment, that you can be uniquely you. And the writing really does help them to be able to, once again, take that journey of self-discovery, take that journey to unmask what we call the authentic voice.
Beautiful.
I haven't been able to read those letters, but according to your experience, how do kids or youth, how do they express this lack of dignity? Because probably dignity is like more like an adult word, right? Young people, typically they have a lot of feelings. Maybe they didn't know how to express them. It's beautiful that you allow them, or you help them to write them. You said this word cathartic. I love catharsis.
Yes.
I love that big time. So how do they express it? How do they express it?
How do they express their dignity?
Yeah. How do they express the lack of it?
The lack of it. Well, it comes out in behavior. It might come out with, they act very tough, very guarded. It might come out with behavior that is very rude. It may come out with attitudes that are really disrespectful, and with a lot of projections. A lot of times they project what they're feeling to the people around them. And interestingly enough, when you go and you meet them and you are expressing not only your own dignity and self-worth, you are really owning that and expressing a tremendous level of respect for them. Sometimes it's difficult for them to receive that. They've been so used to being disrespected, so that in the presence of love, in the presence of respect, that might be a little bit jarring. So they project and they might reject it at first. And that rejection comes in the form of being rude, comes in the form of, disengaging from you or in the moment. And again, I can't take any of that personal, which is not easy to do, because sometimes it feels very personal, when someone is shouting at you or negating something you're saying or simply not paying you any attention. And I have to remember that it's not personal. They don't know me, so this is behavior that's safe. This behavior is what is what they do to protect themselves, and until they learn to trust, until they learn that they can trust you, that you really are there for them, that you're not there to try to take advantage of them in any way, then they can feel safe enough to listen, to bring forth their dignity and begin to change the behavior. It becomes more respectful. It becomes more loving and kind. They begin to listen, not only to you, but they're now listening to themselves and trust, that it is safe enough to be vulnerable.
What I'm so excited about is that you're in the world, Akuyo. I mean, really, because when you're the Spirit Awakening Foundation, I was just reading your, I guess it would be called a tagline, building character, raising self-esteem, one child at a time. And I think, we all go through our lives. I really believe that we all want to make a difference. I'm sure everyone listening to this show today wants to make a difference. And often we think, well, what can I do? And what does it really matter? And at the risk of, sort of looking at what's going on in the outer world, it's like, whoa, sort of the feeling of futility can seep in. I know it can for me. And when I look at what you're doing, and in the face, I mean, talk about a salmon swimming upstream. I mean, you literally go, you bring your love, your beauty, your wisdom, your just openness to a place that can be so dark, and you're like the, sort of the antidote, I guess they would call it, like for the venom of the snake. You come in and you hold that. If some of us believe in the vibration, you hold such a high vibration that I think that's what happens too, that people start shifting their vibration. And I know you just raised up their vibration, and they're probably even surprised at their own feelings and how they actually feel like they can breathe a little deeper. They can drop their shoulders a little more. They can settle into their body a little more, and it's like, whoa, what's this about? I'm sure a lot of it's very surprising. But again, I mean, one child at a time.
One child at a time. And I'm very fortunate. I mean, you're in the world, Sunny, and Mindalia TV. What's so beautiful is that now more and more of us are waking up and recognizing that, as you said, we each have value, we are valuable, we are needed, and each of us has a gift that we can contribute to this life. And I'm very fortunate. I work with some amazing artists. I have a great staff. My own husband, Masauso, is a visual artist, a graphic designer and painter, and he heads our creative visual arts component of the organization. And then I work with some incredible actors and writers and performers. And as I said, my staff, my assistant Georgia and Megan, and so many beautiful people that I have been given the privilege to work with. And we all feel this way. And it's a very exciting time, actually, in the youth development movement. The entire juvenile system is really being dismantled as we speak. It's because we've recognized that we've been doing the same thing very expensively for a long time, and it hasn't been working. What has been done in the past did not work. Incarcerating children really does not work, and unless a child is really a danger to themselves and society, there's really no reason to include a child. There are better ways that we can respond to children that are acting out, to children that feel alienated, to children that are hurting. There are better ways for us as a society to respond to those things. And so it's very exciting that there are organizations, that the new chiefs of probation is now headed by two very dynamic women that are listening and are willing to take chances and do something differently, to do it differently. So yeah, it's an amazing moment.
Mm.
That's exciting. That's really good. Very, very good news.
Yes.
Something that stood out very, very, very much when I was listening to what you do was the part of improvisation, because improvisation means that you have to be your authentic self, completely present.
That's right.
And magic happens.
That's right.
And magic happens. So I love that part. Would you mind elaborating a little bit more? How did you come up with that particular, place to help youth? And what's your experience? What has your experience been when you put that improvisation in the hands of the creativity of amazing youth?
I love the word improvisation too, because life is an improvisation. What is it they say? Go ahead, make your plans. So you want to make God laugh, tell God about your plans. And you plan all these things to do. And then, I have a lesson plan. I get to the classroom, and suddenly something happens. A fight may have broken out, or a child is going through something very emotional. So I have a choice. I can just steamroll ahead as if nothing's happened, and well, this is the plan, this is the lesson, we're going to do it, by golly. That doesn't really work. I have to be responsive to my environment. I have to be responsive to what's going on. So when I feel the energy and I can sense that, something happened, this lesson may not be the appropriate lesson for this day, for right now, let's do something else. So I call it always being open at the top. I have to be open to ideas. I have to be open to be responsive around me. And we also have a lesson which is all about improvisation. It's called the Winner's Circle, where it's a talk show, and the youth in the program are invited to the talk show because of who they are being in the world, because they are now individuals that have realized their dreams in the world. And they are very philanthropic, and they come on the talk show and they talk about the things they're doing out in the world. So it's about creative visualization and giving these children an opportunity to go inside their dreams without being condemned. So if a child says, I've always dreamed about being an astronaut, well, they get to come on the Winner's Circle in this improvisational game and talk about their life as an astronaut. They get to imagine what they think it might be like, what it might feel like to be on top of the world, to have realized your dreams, to be living a life that is useful and beautiful and meaningful. And I tell you, it is amazing. They love this game, to again be in a safe environment where they can speak about their dreams and live their dreams without being ridiculed, without being condemned, without being judged. And it's a lot of fun. So improvisation is powerful.
What I want to say to that is that I was listening to this, I'm thinking about a couple of things about the aspect that there are so many children in prison right now. when you're talking about creating the opportunity for them to write their dreams, to first of all clean out what's really going on with them, like what are their real feelings, what did really happen to them. Maybe they haven't been able to tell anybody because they have too much shame, it's too scary, it's too painful, or they don't even remember it because they've repressed it. You know, getting that out, it's like cleaning out that, and then being able to say, well, with that out, I mean, it'll still have residue and everything, but, you know, a lot of it out. What now, you know, what do I dream for my life? What is possible? And you know, working that like clay, like, you know, just bringing the possibilities forward for people. And then my wish and dream is that the whole system changes so that while you are working on keeping or creating the dreams for these young people and keeping them alive, keeping them fresh, keeping them able to continue in their physiology and in their imagination, that soon these children will be let out of prison. So because some of them are, you know, have life sentences. So you know, that's my prayer. And I know politically things are happening that way too, to shift that. So I think I'm just so grateful to see that it's all happening.
It really is, Sunny. And the good news is that there are some incredible organizations out there, you know, that are doing the work, you know, that are not only working with the youth, but also working politically, as you said, you know, and the time is now. And California, actually, and Los Angeles County is leading the charge and leading the way with innovative programming, with innovative assignments and, you know, ideas that are now coming to the fore. And the philanthropic world is getting on board as well. So you have all the sectors, the private sector, governmental sectors, county board of supervisors, the chiefs of probation, the community-based organizations, all coming together, you know, to really look at this issue, and everyone is willing to do their part. It is such an exciting time because 24 years ago when I began Spirit Awakening, that was not the case. You know, trauma-informed programming was, you know, boo-booed. It just was not the thing to do. I remember bringing, you know, yoga, mindfulness practices like meditation, and people looking at me like I was out of my mind. You know, what is this? Is this something from Africa? You know, what is this? I mean, it was unbelievable, Sunny, you know. And fast forward 24 years later, to have all these things now recognized, to have so many organizations doing this very same thing, ooh, I'm just so grateful. You know, I'm grateful.
Well, I want to jump in. I know that Angel wants to comment, but one thing that I want to just add to that is with, I think you know, Akuyo, that my cousin Lynn Lyman was the co-author of Prop 64. And
Right.
Of course, which is, for some of you out there, that was the adult use of marijuana legalization in California. And what that did also was a number of things. First of all, it worked with the deportation of, and well, first of all, the main thing is that children cannot be incarcerated for smoking pot. That ended. And so I know the prison system is now, I mean, they're actually releasing children, and it's a bit of a process and all of that, but no more will be put in. So I say glory, hallelujah to that. And just again, breaking through the system of the non-violent offenses that we fill our jails with are now starting to, you know, that's starting to crumble, thank goodness. So, you know, again, with the calcification around the criminal justice system that's been for so many years, this, you know, this slavery, jailing, Jim Crow situation is moving out, and I just pray for everybody to keep knowing that's happening and allowing that to happen. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, as a result of that, finally, I think, again, people are beginning to look at communities and saying, well, what's missing in our communities? You know, what is it that we're not providing for our children, for our youth, even for adults, you know, for our elders, that we need to provide in communities so people aren't feeling like, their backs are against the wall and they have to commit some kind of a crime, go steal a loaf of bread or something, So again, the other piece of that is, if we're not going to criminalize low-level criminal activities, which we shouldn't, then we have to make sure that the communities that individuals live in have resources available, have resources for education, have resources for community building, that they have the resources they need to build their lives up, that they have employment opportunities. So it's all of a, and again, finally, we're beginning to look at all of that and put some resources back into communities, so that if we're not going to incarcerate a child, then we have to provide alternatives, for them to do better. And when they know better, they can do better. And that's on us to provide those kinds of resources and opportunities for them to know better and to do better.
What can we do? What's the best thing that we could do in order to help? Because when a young man or young woman is being incarcerated or is in a detention center, whatever that is, very often, that shows a lack probably of maybe a well-structured family. There's a lot of things going on in the environment of that person. We, as relatives, as friends, what can we do? What's the best thing that we can do for those kids?
Well, that's a great question, and it's a lot. It's not simple, and yet it is. In communities, for instance, we can be willing to employ young people. Provide internships, provide employment opportunities. We can be willing to be big brothers, big sisters for young people. To mentor them. One of the first things I did before starting Spirit Awakening was, when I moved to Los Angeles, there was a school down the street where I lived in Los Feliz. One day I just walked into the school and said, "Do you need any volunteers?" And so for a while I would just go after school and read to the kids as they waited to be picked up by their parents. There was a lag time. So in that time, I helped with homework. I helped with reading to them or helping them read. So there's always something for us to do. And I think if each of us looked just within our own communities, you don't even have to travel far, but just look down your own block, look in your community and see what are the volunteer opportunities that are available. What are the nonprofit organizations in my community? What are they doing? Let me check out my local library. Maybe they need volunteers, or the local school. So we can start there, and then within our own families, we all have family members. I certainly do here in this country, and certainly in West Africa and Ghana, that needs some support, and so there's always something for us to do. And I think we have to begin by looking at ourselves, looking right in our own homes. What do I have that perhaps I have an abundance of that I can share? Do I have some time that I can give, to a child in my neighborhood school, or go to the local police station even, and just say, "Hey, do you have programs that you offer? Are you looking for community volunteers? I'm available Saturday mornings." The police department has something called Police Activities League, and I can tell you, there's not one nonprofit that I know that does not need support in some way or fashion, whether it's people support or resources, so you'd be surprised. So if we each looked at what we have, and we all have something, we can always give something, if nothing else, give a prayer, just wish them well.
I think that's, thank you so much for that. And I also think of, yes, churches and different spiritual centers around where, one can even start something. I know at Unity, I decided to start a few things, and one of them was a blood drive. And they didn't even think about doing that. And I turned it into a big party, and I wore Elvira outfits, and I had people donate pies and cookies, and I had music. And the minister said, if anyone can turn giving blood into a party, it's Sunny. But it's like, let's lighten up. And I think it's also like, part of the thing that I think can happen, like you were saying earlier in the conversation, Akuyo, is that sometimes these youth can be you know, kind of badass. I mean, they can be kind of hard to deal with. And so we just sort of, that's not fun. And I think that if we just, you know, sort of get neutral and not have the judgment, if at all possible, you know, and to remember that we always talk about on this show and everywhere lately in the last 5-10 years, we are one. There is no separation. There is no they. There is no throwing away. There's no throwing away of people, certainly, as much as there's no throwing away of a plastic bottle. And for us to remember that, and so that the kind of judgment falls away, you know, incarcerated or bad kids, you know. I remember one time when my son was little and he was getting into trouble for a little bit. I mean, not big trouble, but just, you know, like talking out in class and being sent to the principal. And he'd say, Mom, you know, I used to be a good kid. Now I feel like I'm a bad kid. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did that happen in 3 months, you know? And it's like, that is so not true. And that judgment that even the kid can get from the principal or the school, when what my son was doing actually, Akuyo, was he was drumming with his pencils, and they drove the teacher nuts, and she kept sending him to the principal's office, you know. And then we find out later that that's how boys learn, is by drumming. So you know, but I think my general point is for us to open ourselves up a little bit and not be as judgmental, and allow, like, you've hired many of the people, you have people in your organization who are formerly incarcerated people.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And that's the thing. We have to be willing, you know, if I'm preaching all this and I'm doing all of this, then I better be willing to, you know, employ them. You know, if I'm not willing to employ them, then who? You know, and so and they are employable, you know, absolutely. They, if nothing else, you know, just like your son, you know, when a child seems to be acting out or they're being creative, you know, they're telling us something, you know, that perhaps they are more creative and they think a little bit differently. And I think as a society, we have to learn to understand those signs, to really interpret them correctly, and not just, you know, oh, they're not behaving like all the others, so they're bad. No, that's just information they're giving us, you know, and we have to understand what the information is. And if we don't, then we better find people who do understand the information. Like you came to understand that, oh, boys learn by drumming. Okay, you know, so he's musically inclined. He's rhythmic. He's, you know, to take those things and perhaps then provide a space for that child to have their creative outlet, you know, and as opposed to just labeling them, sending them away, you know, I don't want to deal with this. And we have to deal, you know, we have to look at things. We have to be willing to look at things and be responsive, you know, rather than reactionary.
Yes.
I would love the audience to know a little bit more about your program in Ghana, Akuyo. Please share that with us, because it must be amazing.
It really is. A few years ago, I had the vision I wanted to take kids to Africa. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I knew it would be expensive. And actually, some of my students, a group of my girls that were incarcerated, wrote a proposal to me. It was a very well-written proposal. They called it the Angels of Redemption. And they said, look, we want to go to Africa because in this country, we've been labeled juvenile delinquents. No one really thinks we are capable of anything. If we traveled outside of this country and we went to Africa, we could visit an orphanage, take clothes to the kids and help them. They don't know about the labels that we're called. They'll just see us as young people, as children just like them. And that would be an opportunity for us to redeem ourselves. So the proposal was so amazing that I was like, we've got to do this. And fortunately, I found some sponsors who also thought it was a great idea and sponsored our group to go to Ghana. And when we go, we visit an orphanage, we visit the schools. It's an educational component. It's an educational journey. We visit the slave castles and we do processes there to release any sense of being enslaved ourselves. We visit children that are there. It's amazing. And I think for American children, it's important for them to travel outside of America because America is an anomaly. You know, it's the richest, baddest country in the world. And, you know, very few people live like most Americans. Even poor Americans live better than poor people in other countries. You know, so for the children to see not only some of the beauty in Ghana when we visit Ghana and the people there and how hardworking they are, they also do get to see the extreme levels of poverty. You know, they get to see people who work very hard and make maybe $2 a month or something. You know, they get to see that, and that is very powerful. And then for them to, it allows them to appreciate what they have, number one, and to see that, oh my goodness, wow, you know, I had no idea this level of poverty existed in the world. I think it's important. You know, we have one world, as you said earlier, Sunny, one planet, one Earth, one world, you know, and we all have to learn how to coexist and live together and have some empathy and compassion for one another. We have to understand the struggles of people outside of America, you know, that struggle deeply and work very hard. And I think our children really need to see that and understand that, so that when they grow and they become decision makers and policy makers, they do that with an understanding of the totality of the world in which we live. You know, that laws will be created that are just and fair, not only for me, but for the world at large. And that's important.
Well, I want to say I so agree with you, Akuyo, and I was so lucky when I was 17 that my family, we moved to Africa. We actually lived in Maseru, Lesotho, and we lived in Johannesburg. And I was able to see at such a young age all of these things you're talking about. And I thought, you know, the thing that struck me so much when I was little is that the gratitude that people had for things that we would be whining about. I mean, the deep, deep gratitude. And that was something I am so grateful that I was able to embody that literally at that age. And I've always had with me. It's like when people are whining about stuff here, I just want to say, yeah.
You have
Yes. And I wanted you to mention also about that this is the 400 year you were just mentioning.
Right. That's right. So this year is the 400th year anniversary of the Atlantic slave trade. So a lot of people are actually going to be traveling to Africa, and especially to Ghana, which was one of the ports where this enslaved Africans were taken from Ghana and brought to the Americas and wherever else they were taken. So this is a very pivotal year. So it's important that I take some of our young people back there this year, you know, to revisit this history again, never again, to see, you know, to see what it was like, to see the remnants of colonialism, you know, because Ghana is still suffering from all of that. So I think it's important. It'll be educational. It'll be cathartic, you know, and ultimately, I think very empowering and very strengthening for them to have this kind of a journey and experience. And so we to do this in August, towards the end of August. And if I can say, we're still looking for sponsors. So if anyone listening wants to support our kids to go on this journey, please let us know, and we'd be happy to work with you on that.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So we are reaching the end of our conversation, unfortunately, Akuyo, but I would love to, please, would you mind sharing, where can we find you? Where can people, where can sponsors, where can kids find you?
Oh, absolutely. We have a website, spiritawakening.org, www.spiritawakening.org. And the website has our emails and phone numbers on there. And the telephone number for the foundation office is 866-456-8002. And again, that's on the website as well. So that's the easiest way to reach us. And if you just Google Spirit Awakening Foundation, it'll come up and you'll find ways to be able to reach us. And we'd love to hear from your viewers.
Absolutely. Awesome. Beautiful. And you, Sunny, how can we find you?
Well, I'm going to tell you how you can find me. I also want to just tell people that when you go to the website, there are many different areas to play with Spirit Awakening. I mean, there are little things, there are big things. There are many areas there that you can look at to see ideas that you could even do in your schools, in your communities. So I'm looking at many, many things here, and we don't have time to go through them, but all kinds of mentoring programs and after-school programs, and you can read about them. And again, either put them in your school, do them in your community.
We're licensing programs, Sunny. So if someone is interested in being taught the Spirit Awakening way and bringing our program, our curriculum to their school or site or organization, let us know that as well. And yeah, we have that available now.
Oh, yay, perfect. Wow. Well, I just want to say two things. Yes, you can find me, of course, here next week. You can find me at Solutionary Sundays ABC Talk, and you can see me as a featured writer in the Whole Lifetimes magazine and chief strategic partner. And I want to say to Akuyo and all of the people, Siya hamba kukiyenkwen kosa, which means that's not, which means we are walking in the light of God. So I will end with that.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Outstanding. So thank you very much from the bottom of our heart, Akuyo, for being with us today, for the amazing work that you do every single day, and for all the kids and families that so much need you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Really an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sunny, again, amazing conversation, amazing guest. Thank you very much for being with us. What an incredible journey today. So thank you very, very much.
My pleasure. I'll say it right. Which does mean we are walking in the light of God.
You never keep on surprising me. You never stop, stop surprising me. So thank you. Great conversation again today. And again, this is Angel Ribo with Mindalia TV. Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope that you have enjoyed the conversation as much as we have. And we hope to see you again in our next show next week with the incredible Sunny Chayes. Have a wonderful day and talk to you soon. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.